There are moments in the entertainment world that fans never forget, moments that aren't scripted, that aren't staged, and yet feel more powerful than any drama ever filmed. Among these unforgettable instances is the one that took place between Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan, two of China's biggest stars, during the filming of the Untamed. A simple protective gesture from Yibo, combined with Xiao Zhan's unexpected reaction, created a storm of emotions that rippled through fans, the crew, and the entire set. What makes this moment so extraordinary is that it wasn't part of the script, it wasn't an orchestrated fanservice scene. It was real. And that raw authenticity left everyone speechless. It began on a sweltering afternoon on set. The cast had been filming for hours under the blazing sun, heavy costumes weighing them down. Tensions were high, exhaustion was visible, and the atmosphere felt heavy. Xiao Zhan, ever professional, pushed through the discomfort with his trademark smile, but those close enough could see the strain behind it. He was dehydrated, his lips pale, and his body visibly tiring. Still, he didn't complain. He never did. Wang Yibo, however, noticed. Unlike many others on set who were caught up in their roles or distracted by technical details, Yibo's eyes rarely strayed too far from Xiao Zhan. Even in between takes, when others joked or scrolled through their phones, Yibo seemed attuned to the smallest shifts in his co-star's demeanor. That day was no different. During one particularly grueling scene, as Xiao Zhan lifted his sword and prepared to deliver his lines, his hand trembled slightly. It wasn't obvious to the casual observer, but Yibo caught it instantly. Then came the moment that left the crew stunned. The director shouted "cut" and began discussing adjustments with the cinematographer. Most of the crew relaxed, but Xiao Zhan, ever committed, kept standing, sword still in hand, waiting for instructions. His knees wobbled almost imperceptibly. In that second, Wang Yibo moved. He didn't hesitate, didn't wait for anyone else to step in. With a single fluid motion, Yibo reached out and steadied Xiao Zhan, placing a hand firmly on his arm, just enough to keep him upright. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it carried a quiet intensity that froze the entire set. The air shifted. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. The hum of equipment seemed to fade. Every pair of eyes landed on the two men, standing side by side, connected by a gesture that spoke volumes. Xiao Zhan turned his head slightly, startled at first. His eyes widened, registering Yibo's touch. For a split second, a dozen emotions flickered across his face: surprise, gratitude, and something softer, something unspoken. He didn't pull away. Instead, he let the moment linger, his lips parting as though words were about to escape, but none came. The silence was deafening. No one dared interrupt. And then, just as quickly, Xiao Zhan smiled. It wasn't the bright, practiced smile of a celebrity for the cameras. It was faint, almost shy, and yet filled with warmth. That smile was directed solely at Yibo. What made it even more powerful was Yibo's reaction, or rather, his lack of one. He didn't flinch, didn't blush, didn't make a joke to ease the tension. He simply held his ground, his hand still steady on Xiao Zhan's arm, as if silently saying, "I've got you. Don't worry." For fans who witnessed it in behind-the-scenes clips later, the moment felt almost cinematic. But for those on set, it was something deeper. The crew members, seasoned professionals who had seen countless stars work together, later admitted that they had never seen a bond quite like the one between these two. When Xiao Zhan finally straightened, whispering a quiet thank you under his breath, Yibo gave a small nod and released his hold, his expression unreadable. Yet, in that tiny exchange, something monumental had passed between them. The director, perhaps sensing the electricity in the air, paused before calling the next take. Even he, known for his no-nonsense approach, seemed momentarily caught in the gravity of what had just unfolded. But that wasn't the end. Later that evening, when the cast gathered for a short break, Xiao Zhan sat off to the side, sipping water quietly. Most of the crew were preoccupied with their own conversations, but Yibo once again gravitated toward him. He didn't say much, as was his nature, but he placed a small packet of cooling patches on the table in front of Xiao Zhan before walking away. No words. No explanations. Just action. And that's what defines Wang Yibo. He has always been a man of few words, someone who lets his actions speak louder. For Xiao Zhan, who has weathered storms in his career and life, that kind of silent loyalty carried weight. Fans later dissected this moment endlessly, replaying the clips, zooming in on their expressions, and flooding social media with theories. Some said Xiao Zhan's smile that day was the most genuine they had ever seen. Others pointed out that Yibo'S instinctive protectiveness revealed just how deep their bond truly ran. But perhaps the most telling reaction came from those who were actually there. Several crew members later confessed that the atmosphere shifted completely after that incident. Scenes filmed afterward carried an unusual depth, as though both actors were channeling the emotions of that unspoken moment into their performances. And it showed. When the Untamed finally aired, audiences were captivated not only by the story and characters but by the palpable chemistry between Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo'. Many viewers couldn't articulate why their connection felt so real, so visceral. But those who knew about that day on set understood. The protective gesture wasn't just a fleeting act of kindness. It was a glimpse into a relationship built on trust, respect, and something that words often fail to capture. To this day, fans still bring up that incident, calling it one of the most heart-stopping behind-the-scenes moments in modern C-drama history. Because it wasn't just about Yibo' holding Xiao Zhan steady. It was about what it represented: two individuals standing together, supporting each other, even when the cameras weren't rolling. The truth is, not every bond in the entertainment industry is genuine. But every so often, something real slips through the cracks of scripted perfection. That day, Wang Yibo'S quiet protectiveness and Xiao Zhan's heartfelt reaction gave the world a rare glimpse of authenticity. And in a world where silence often says more than words, the silence that followed Yibo'S gesture spoke louder than anything else. It was a silence filled with admiration, gratitude, and an unshakable bond that continues to captivate millions. Even years later, fans still ask, what did Xiao Zhan truly feel in that moment? Was it gratitude? Was it something deeper? No one can say for certain, except perhaps the two of them. But one thing is undeniable: Wang Yibo'S protective gesture and Xiao Zhan's silent, genuine reaction created a memory that will never fade. It was a moment when the real world eclipsed the drama, when the bond between two stars became the story itself. And that's why this simple, unplanned moment has gone down as one of the most unforgettable in their shared history: a gesture of protection, a smile of acknowledgement, and a silence that echoed louder than applause. Because sometimes, the most powerful scenes are the ones that were never meant to be seen. The silence that swept through the set after Wang Yibo'S protective gesture wasn't just silence. It was heavy, charged, alive with something no script could capture. Everyone froze. A crew member holding a boom mic forgot to lower it. The makeup artist standing by with powder in hand stopped mid-step. Even the assistant director, who was always barking orders, stood completely still. It was as if the entire set had inhaled but never exhaled. Xiao Zhan's reaction, though subtle, was enough to shatter every expectation. At first, he blinked rapidly, almost as if to make sure it wasn't his imagination, that Wang Yibo' had indeed steadied him, his hand gripping firmly, almost protectively, on his arm. It wasn't the grip of a co-star or colleague. It was the kind of gesture you see between people who share something deeper, an instinct that says, "I won't let you fall, not on my watch." Xiao Zhan opened his mouth, as though about to say something, but stopped. The words wouldn't come. Instead, he let his gaze linger on Yibo'S face, searching, questioning, almost vulnerable. And in that fleeting second, the air between them thickened. Yibo' didn't look away. His usual aloofness was gone, replaced with an intensity that no one had seen before. He didn't speak either, but his hand remained steady, fingers pressing lightly as if reminding Xiao Zhan that he wasn't alone. A camera operator, forgetting himself, whispered, This should be in the drama." But it wasn't. It was real. Then came the smallest of gestures that nearly broke the silence: Xiao Zhan's faint smile. It wasn't rehearsed, wasn't the wide grin he often used to lighten the mood on set. No. This one was private, small, fragile, almost hidden. But to those who saw it, it carried a force strong enough to make their hearts skip a beat. A lighting crew member later confessed, "That smile wasn't for us. It was only for Yibo'. And we all knew it. What happened next cemented the moment into legend. The director, regaining composure, started to call for another take, but stopped mid-command when he noticed Xiao Zhan swaying slightly. Before anyone else could react, Wang Yibo' moved again, this time stepping closer, positioning himself almost like a shield in front of Xiao Zhan. His hand didn't just steady him now, it shifted, firm against his back, guiding him discreetly toward a chair. It was protective. It was unyielding. And it was impossible to ignore. Xiao Zhan sat down reluctantly, whispering, "I'm fine," his voice low, but Yibo'S sharp gaze told another story. He crouched slightly in front of him, close enough for only Xiao Zhan to hear. Their conversation wasn't recorded, but eyewitnesses swear they saw Xiao Zhan's eyes soften, his shoulders relax, as if whatever Yibo' had said in that hushed tone carried more weight than any medicine could. The crew, still stunned, exchanged looks silently. No one dared interrupt. It wasn't professionalism holding them back, it was reverence. The scene they had just witnessed wasn't scripted, yet it held more raw emotion than anything they could have captured on film. One assistant later described it as, like watching two souls communicate without words. But perhaps the most striking moment came when Xiao Zhan, still seated, finally looked up at Yibo'. Their eyes locked, just for a few seconds, but it was enough to silence any whispers of doubt about the depth of their bond. The world seemed to shrink in that instant, the set fading, the noise dissolving. It was just the two of them. And then, Xiao Zhan did something no one expected. With his free hand, he gently tapped Yibo'S wrist. It was soft, almost unnoticeable, but deliberate. A silent acknowledgement. A quiet thank you. A way of saying, "I see what you're doing, and I appreciate it more than you know." That tiny gesture sent chills through everyone watching. Later, during breaks, the set buzzed with hushed conversations. Crew members whispered theories, assistants replayed the moment in their heads, and makeup staff couldn't stop talking about the way Yibo' had acted with such instinct. Many said they had never seen Xiao Zhan so openly vulnerable, nor Yibo' so fiercely protective. It wasn't just about co-stars looking out for each other. It was about something deeper, something unsaid, something that resonated far beyond the cameras. That night, as the crew wrapped up, one of the extras caught sight of Yibo' slipping a bottle of cold water into Xiao Zhan's bag without saying a word. It wasn't for show, no one was meant to see it. But they did. And it only added to the legend of that day. By the time behind-the-scenes footage leaked online months later, fans exploded with theories. They slowed the clips frame by frame, analyzing the exact moment Yibo' reached out, the way Xiao Zhan's expression changed, the subtle smile, the hand on the wrist. Entire forums were dedicated to breaking down that one protective gesture, labeling it the moment that stopped time. But for those who were there, the power of that day wasn't in the footage, it was in the silence that followed. A silence filled with unspoken words, unexpressed emotions, and a bond so deep that it couldn't be hidden, no matter how hard they tried. Years later, when fans rewatch the Untamed, they often point to the on-screen chemistry and ask, how did they make it feel so real? The answer, perhaps, lies in that one unscripted moment of protection. Because the truth is, what Wang Yibo' and Xiao Zhan shared that day wasn't acting. It was real. And the reaction, Xiao Zhan's smile, his silence, his quiet acknowledgement, was something no scriptwriter could have ever dreamed up. The protective gesture may have lasted only seconds, but its impact, eternal. Because sometimes, the moments that aren't filmed become the ones no one ever forgets. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more mind-blowing stories about your favorite stars. Your support keeps these unforgettable moments alive.